Hey guys, one of the privileges that I have with this podcast is being able to drop a bonus episode a few times each season. And this is one of them. I couldn't wait to share it with you because it kind of leaves you a bit inspired, challenged, and connected. I think you're going to love it. Here we go. Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Fathernetics. Today we have an opportunity to speak with my brother, Abbas. Welcome, Abbas.
Welcome. Hello.
Awesome. So I had an opportunity to come to Houston for graduation. My nephew graduated in May of this year. So we have the entire family together, and I wanted to make sure to capture some voices on my podcast that have similar but not the same experiences from, the fatherhood world. Obviously, we have the same dad in common, my brother and I. So I wanted to invite him on the podcast to provide some insight, see where we diverge, see where we agree. Obviously, we are all adults now, so we have different perspectives on what may have been imprinted on us from our parents, our grandparents, our uncles, how we see the world now, what we think fatherhood should be able to create in our world today.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously for me, it's more of an LGBTQ perspective for fatherhoods, and really trying to say that it's really the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
There are some nuances that come with being
Dynamics.
a father of, in a same-sex relationship that we have to care for, right? Being more vigilant, having additional conversations about what it means, and making sure our kid is secure in the fact that, having two dads is okay. How do we address that? How do we explain that? Where it's okay to expand on it, where it's not okay to expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, there is the racial aspect that goes into the parenthood. I'm black, Nick is white, Jacob is somewhere in the middle, right? With red hair to boot.
Yeah.
So he kind of stands out. A lot of people ask questions, who's your dad, and, which one are you with, Before I let you introduce yourself, the reason I said that is I've had an experience coming back from St. Thomas, where, as you know, St. Thomas is a
U.S. territory?
U.S. territory. Thank you. So you don't need a passport.
Mm-hmm.
So we flew down there without a passport. On the way back, we were stopped because Jacob did not have a passport. We all have boarding passes. We have IDs. Jacob doesn't. He's a minor. He doesn't need one. However, there was what I would assume is confusion as to who he was with. Because if he was just with Nick, that would make sense. If he was just with me, that would make sense. But we're all three together.
Mm-hmm.
So the question was to Jacob, who are you here with? And he said, my parents. And he's like, which one? And he's like, both of them are my parents. Well, okay. And so the guy explained to me, he's like, well, when you travel with your son, you should have his passport with you. And I said, why? And his response was, well, there's a lot of child trafficking
Mm-hmm.
that we need to make sure you're not leaving our country our territory, if you will, our state, with a kid that doesn't belong to you. So in my mind, it's like, would you have asked the white family with the white kid? Would you have asked the black family with the black kid? Or are you asking the gay family that doesn't have what you would assume would be traditionally normal to just say, you have a kid, go forth? Anyway,
Yeah, I could see that.
this world creates such a dynamic that we always have to be like, okay, is this prejudicial or is this
the
normal?
optics.
Exactly. Anyway, before we go any further than that,
Right.
introduce yourself. Tell us, your passions, your worlds, and
Right.
some of the history
me.
that we have together as brothers.
Well, first of all, my name is Abbas Mayers, as you've gracefully introduced me earlier. I've been in Houston for some time. I can't count it. I don't count it. more than well. I always say since the '90s, since the 1900s. I'm a single man, a bachelor, 6'4", work in the retail space, do some off cuff stuff too. Have quite a few connections in Houston, so it's been a beautiful place to see how it's developed and progress into a multinational, multicultural place. Love meeting new people, love photo, love arts, love traveling, food. As a Houstonian, you're an inherent foodie.
Okay, so traveling, where have you been?
I've done Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, places around the United States. I wanted to do Spain was on the list because I have a friend out there. Portugal is on the list. Tokyo is on the list. I believe they're all are achievable, just like you said with Passport. That's all you need, really. It's just getting on board with people. I want to do a cruise by myself.
Oh, well, there are a lot of single cruises out there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, it depends on what you're looking for. Single cruises can be ratchet if you want it to be that way.
Yeah. But, I know how to navigate those spaces because ratchet is a type of fun, too, that I like to delve in every once in a while. I got some ratchet friends, some classy friends, some sedity friends, kosher friends.
We have some ratchet family, too.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm very cognizant of being exposed to new ideas and being exposed to ratchet folks or ratchet culture. You do learn some new things about them, yourself, the culture, and then you can know how to approach it. And then most of the time you'll realize it's not what it seemed before you got there. Like the book cover did not match what was underneath. What was interwoven.
So do you think you've learned this discernment technique as an adult, or is some of this kind of elements from our parents?
So definitely the parents had a big part of it. My parents I call them both orators. They're great communicators. They've showed a foundation on how to, I think one of the main points is how to read a room. My dad with the karate background, how to read a room with the situational awareness. So with being able to read a room, you know how to navigate the energy. You know how to exemplify the energy, bring it up, bring it down, however. But with all that being said, it allows you to meet new people, how to approach, how to make connections, how to, sow and reap and learn about yourself. Because I'm a strong believer that people can bring out new pieces of you that you had never seen or ask questions that you had never heard. And one of the things I love to hear when I talk to people is, oh, I've never heard about that, or I didn't think about that way. And when you expose somebody to a new perspective, then it allows them to grow. And then I also learn from them too. So it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful space to have the confidence that my parents instilled in me to approach and being able to operate in any space if you want to and learn about new people, new countries, new cultures, and be empathetic to what people go through, because we've gone through some things through Panama, Civil War, fleeing a country.
So before you get far down, I want to ask about that, but I think that this is a good example of some of the characterizations that we've pulled from our parents as well, because by definition, this podcast does exactly what you're talking about, right? Trying to reach out to other people, understanding their perspectives, trying to either provide insight, education, or to learn ourselves from others. Are we doing something that is so unique, or are we doing something that everybody's doing and we just think it's unique? Or are there opportunities to say we shouldn't be doing that at all? I think that is the community that this podcast is trying to build by engaging with people and saying, how did you come to think the way that you do today? How much of that is influenced by environment, circumstances?
Culture.
How much of that did you create on your own based on the the environments that you have allowed yourself to get into, and maybe get trapped there, or maybe find a way out, or maybe thrive in that environment. So I think those are good perspectives. Now, you said we lived through a war. Tell me about that.
From what I remember, one of the cool things about it, just
You may remember it differently than I do. That's
yes,
yeah.
one of the key sequences, because I was the youngest one in the family at the time. I remember when we had a situation on our street where American SEAL team is what we believe it was, because there was some interaction with my father, and hey, get back in the house. Something's going on. It's like, oh, okay, we see what's going on. And then the day after, the forthcoming morning or hours later, you see like a seizure or raid be done or executed on a house on the same street, and you see that it's obviously military. Those interactions, and also hearing on the news about some civil unrest that me and you had experienced again in 2021. Did we go? No, 2022. We went back to Panama.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah,
Yeah, civil unrest where
that was 2 years ago.
We got to experience the airport lounge because our flight kept getting pushed back over and over again. Well, that was a great shout out to Tucuman, PTY, baby.
So let me tell you what I remember about the circumstance from that you referenced earlier. We were at grandma's house, all three of us, me, you, and our sister Johada, and we were departing to go back home. And on the way there, we saw a Humvee, a military Humvee in our neighborhood, approach a house that was probably maybe 4 doors down from where we lived. And there was a lot of activity, a lot of weapons drawn and things of that nature. And from behind me, you could hear grandma calling for us to return very frantically. Mm-hmm. So we turned and returned. And then we stayed at grandma for a few hours. But we still had to go home at some point. And we did. And passing that house, it was riddled with bullets, the front door. That allowed an opportunity, which I think is more along the lines of parenting, for dad and mom to sit us down and say, this is what happened. Let's explain this.
Yeah, real world activities.
Yes, because if you leave that untouched, that is not. It leaves a vacuum for us to fill on our own.
Yeah, or the media,
which we're not going to put anything
to fill in.
Exactly. So that's what I remember about that moment, which was very intense.
Yeah.
Actually, because we've grown up around military before.
Yeah.
Panama had 3
Canal
or 4
Zone.
military bases that were around us. We grew up in the Canal Zone, which was controlled by the U.S. government at the time.
Yep.
So, we've been on base. We have family that serve in the military.
John McCain was born down there.
Was he?
Yeah, he was born on U.S. soil that was in Panama, which was.
Look that up.
Yeah, he was born. It was somebody else as well, but I learned through his death, because I think he's been dead for maybe about 10 years. But he was born on a military base in Panama, but it made him a U.S. citizen because he was on U.S. property. But yeah, also that day with that whole seizure thing, I remember it's real spotty because I was younger. I don't even remember the age, maybe 5, 4, maybe. Around that,
from when that happened.
Because
seizure? That was part of Just Cause, and Just Cause was when I was 9, and you are 2 years younger than me ish.
So 7-ish.
Yeah.
So that was like the same year we came up here.
We came up the next year.
The next year.
Yeah, because
the next calendar year, but it was months.
Yes, it was the next calendar year. I want to say in the summertime. I think we either already had planned it or it was accelerated because of.
Yeah. I think mom and dad can clarify that. But I remember some civil unrest, cars being flipped over and burned. I remember an event where I believe I was running. It was retold to me through mom and dad that I was playing down the street, and there were gunshots that were heard, and they were calling me back, and I had to run back to grandma's house. It might have been around the same situation, but learning and experiencing that and seeing, pay attention to what your parents are saying. Pay attention to what's going around. Like, this is serious when you step out the house. Like, when you walk out your house, even to this day, I tell people when you walk out the house, it's like you're walking in the woods. You need to pay more attention and be more socially aware, be more present. Then you're more connected. You can get little signals and you can feel the vibe in case something's about to happen. And once you develop that more and more, but
I would agree and say situational awareness was probably learned a lot earlier for us because of the conflict in Panama. This is the Just Cause War in Panama in
89, 88? Yeah,
89 is what I want to say.
Yeah, I believe so.
And that just created, while our town was somewhat removed from some of the heavy activity, I mean, this all started right around my birthday in December with Apache helicopters flying over our house. I mean, I woke up at night. I don't know what time it was, and it was just, helicopter after helicopter after. And it's not like we're not used to hearing it, because we've been in the helicopters.
But the activity had increased.
It was a lot of helicopters, right? And then you turn the TV on, and it's like, oh, downtown's being firebombed, and so it was quite an experience for us to live through, and I think our parents did the best they could to make sure that we
excellent job
felt
by the way. Shout out mom and
safe
dad.
And we war going on and we're still outside playing. That's how far removed from it we were, but we were close enough to hear explosions in the distance and gunshots coming from somewhere. Where is that?
The vibe was a little different.
So there was a lot of, hey, if you I don't know that they directly said if you see something, go inside, because there wasn't activity in our town apart from this Humvee that came out of nowhere, and apparently this guy, where I don't know what his story was.
I think there were a little bit more restrictions placed on how far we could play and how far we can go as far as the time.
Right. I mean, we were just at grandma's house. I mean, we didn't go.
You could see down the street, so it was
exactly. So what would you say if you had to characterize any part of you as being derived from fatherhood? What would you say is probably the one that's kind of more present for you?
So I would say one of the qualities that I learned from Dad is his posture that he has. He's a listener, which makes you a great speaker. And one of the things I've understood and kind of paid attention to his leadership that he has just in his presence, and being able to observe that and see what that is and what that looks like and try to replicate, because we're all obviously descendants from him, and him just being around us and the things that he says, the direction, and the position he had in the community too. He was a main leader when it comes to karate and when it comes to Lions Club and when it comes to some community services that he was.
Lion Club still a thing?
Yeah, I've seen a few factions down here
in Panama. Out here?
Yeah, out here in Houston too. Wow. I believe it's still in Panama. I thought I saw the last time we were in Panama, we saw like a community place, and he pointed it out. But and I do feel very privileged to have a father as great. Obviously, I'm biased as mine, and then having counterpart my mother. But as far as him showing leadership, showing us what a man, because like I said, I'm a bachelor. I still encounter people, women, men, but on a dating segment or dating platform, it's women that I interact with, and I see some of the things that they point out to me that I have that they don't see in other men that they're pursuing or they have friendships with. And that male presence is one thing that I had not seen or heard about until they had brought it up. And I credit that to my father, just not reacting.
So to expand for those that go, what is the male presence that you're referencing?
So the male presence, for what I understood, what they would recite to me or tell me that they notice is, not being emotionally triggered. If something is going on, you're moving to a productive place of action instead of reaction when it comes to throwing a tantrum. If, let's say, somebody comes in and you're at a restaurant setting and steps on your shoe, you can either react and blow up, stand up, throw a punch, or you can realize through emotional intelligence it was probably an accident. He doesn't know you. He's probably drunk or high or on pills. So you can either, understand that and know it's an accident and move on. And most of the time you can make a friend in that instance. Be like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me buy you a drink. I've had that happen before just from the way I reacted. I've had situations where I've reacted to the police. I've been put in the back of a car unjust. And the officer was like, man, you're acting so great. Or you're acting way better than somebody I would expect to act. And if it was me being detained with handcuffs in the back of a police car because somebody said a black man down the street robbed a pharmacy, ironically, that he would be pissed off. But, believing in positivity and Jesus Christ at certain levels, I look past that, and I believe... I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe spirituality starts with yourself. It starts from within. The source of the energy starts from within, and then you connect to things around you, which brings up your situational awareness and connection to everything. But just your reaction, your male presence, the leadership that you can show to others just by the decisions you make, how you make them, the tone that you use, the aggression, not having that in ill put places. Like, why are you being so aggressive? And we're talking about, which ice cream do you want, mango or pineapple? Like, certain
Cookies
things.
And cream.
Yeah. I'm a fan of cookies and cream too. Bluebell.
We grew up in Paraíso, which in Spanish is paradise, and I think that is accurate,
very accurate
to a certain degree. I'm often told that my childhood was more Disney, if you will.
I agree,
and it forces me to think a lot about how people may have grown up that's different to mine, and I think that for a large part of it is hard to understand because, between you, myself, and Johara, we always had our parents around. They were always present, right? It feels like they had a lot of intentionality. Our parents didn't argue and fight. There wasn't any throwing things and
at least not
voices.
In front of us.
Exactly.
And they never came to blows or anything like that.
Never saw any of that. So it was always very, dad was very stoic. Mom was always present. She, we had a housekeeper that took care of certain things in the house. We lived in the Canal Zone, which was a privileged zone.
Very.
And hence the isolation that I was referring to. We were very isolated from some of the war activity in Panama. We also had our grandparents that were down the street, that were very engaged, very attentive, wanted us around. One of the crown jewels that I keep talking to people about is grandma and grandpa in Panama were very well-known individuals on my dad's side,
well respected,
and my mom's side. So we were royalty without the crown, if you will. There wasn't that fanfare of I'm not saying we're celebrities,
heirs to the throne,
but everybody knew who we were. It felt like the entire country knew who we were because you couldn't go anywhere without the moniker of mayors or the Brooks being something
Joseph
that
well.
just kind of fell out of Joseph as well. Yeah. So when I hear from others that they've had a different childhood and the type of, things that they've gone through, that's like, wow, it makes me appreciate a lot of that growing up. And it all starts with grandpa. Grandpa is almost what we see in dad today.
Yeah.
And a lot of who dad is in us today, even though we are our own individuals. I think a lot of that has come down to just the emulation, right? We've seen grandpa, we grew up with grandpa. So his way of engaging with people was always very calm, very, hey, tell me about that. Let me tell you about how I heard this, oh, you need something? Let's figure out a way to solve it. Let's do that together. Or, hey, stay away from that area. It's not safe today because the AB. It was always like, let me explain it to you. Let me tell you what's going on. It's never just don't do it because I said so.
Yeah.
The I said so was not said a lot in our home. So, knowing that, one of the items that I like to make sure that we can cover on this podcast is really understanding the childhood impact on who we are today, coming from
it's huge.
Our parents.
It's huge.
So what would you say what are some of the, maybe even some of the memories that you think have contributed to who you are today from our childhood?
Starting
that has nothing to do with the war, because we talked about that.
Right.
But,
starting with grandparents, Grandpa Mayers was a figurehead in the community, well respected, like you said. He carried himself in a very respectable way, so it was no extravagant sense or braggy or bully or anything like that. It was just
never raised his
respected.
voice.
Yeah, it was
Very stern.
in his posture, eye contact, very presentable, always clean, knew how to have fun.
Oh, he had a press shirt.
Yeah. Knew how to work hard, play hard. He was closely tied to the security system of the Panama Canal, so he had keys to the city in certain regards, as far as connections and being able to pick up the phone and get stuff done. And my dad would definitely make sure that we knew that was his position and that we should pay attention to certain things, whether he said it literally or not. We would pick up on certain things, just the culture of our family, the communication.
We had to represent.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything we did was being watched by somebody who knew of us, or knew of our parents, of our grand.
We're held accountable.
Exactly,
and that's
you
what
are not
going
to get away with anything.
Yeah, you had to. If you did something, you better make sure that you had a reason, or at least had a story, or you knew because somebody saw you. Or somebody, if you got away with it, then which we didn't think we got away with it.
We didn't do anything. There. Yeah, accountability was something that we learned super early, and I think that we've carried through in our lives. Now that you said do whatever you do, make sure you do it right. I can recall. I can recall a story when I was in high school that Dad told me. He's like, if I ever get a call from the school about you, please make sure that you are in the right, because I am coming down there to back you up. Yeah,
you always had our back for sure.
And without even needing to say it, it was very much saying,
it was powerful.
Don't let me get a call and you're in the wrong because you did something foolish, and now I have to come up there and address it, because my first instinct is going to be that you did something that you're in the right for. Mm-hmm. So if I have to hear otherwise, I'm going to be disappointed. Yeah. So, there was never a time where Dad needed to be called to school. No. But I felt empowered to say, if I needed to, I could raise hell, but I better be right. Yeah. And I thought that was a very powerful statement to make. That's a lot of trust to give a teenager in high school that sees other kids having issues with their teachers and wilding out and, get out of here, and I'm gonna call you. That kind of, it's like, ooh,
you didn't want to disappoint.
I hope your mom knows why she's coming up here. Kind of a story. It's So I think that is indicative of the type of parent that I want to be, and I have done that.
You see how it works. My kid.
Absolutely,
how it's executed.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I empower you to, as who was it? John Lewis says, to make good trouble. Yeah, make some good trouble.
Yeah, I like I said, it's, we didn't want to disappoint. You didn't want to get on the bad side, or not that there were any repercussions that we
never saw a
with.
bad side.
but
It
it
was
was
very
kind of like
stern.
you respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Stoic.
respect what was being represented. The family, like you make everybody look goofy if you do something like that. It's because it's like your parents are allowing, like they trained you, like no home training. That saying, like we used to say that a lot, or we used to hear it, so we understood what it meant. And my dad conducted himself like a professional, almost like a businessman. So I think as a man, a businessman is kind of revered as something that we all kind of want
As
to
an
be like.
intellectual.
Yeah, somebody that's smart, that can communicate in all spaces. Because there's circles that people interact with where they feel like they can't be in that circle, they can't hold their own. And Dad showed us how that's possible by listening and then interjecting or responding or communicating. However, I mean most communication is nonverbal, so he would do that. Body language, through understanding his body, the movements. Martial arts was a key component of the energy he emitted when he was in spaces, and we can see that. Even just, we would get annoyed when we go places and he would try to talk to everybody. If he catches somebody eye contact, he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" Shake their hand to make sure they knew, "I'm not scared. Like, what? How you doing?
I
Like,
see you.
speak. Like, I see you.
Yep.
I acknowledge you. You see me. You know what it is. We operating on this wavelength." Which is a great thing, because I do that sometimes, emulate him. And it's easier to see that and replicate it when you see it being done over and over and over
And
again.
I think that you said something very, very thoughtful. It's a lot of people in soft skills. You can't teach soft skills.
Yeah.
You either have it or you don't, but you have to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's usually because someone has shown you how it works.
They revealed it.
You can't go look it up and read it and say do this, do that, and then go do it. You have to have seen it in order to be able to have that. And I think between the three of us, we all operate in that space pretty well. We can engage with anyone on any level about anything, and I think we get that from mom and dad.
Yeah, it's and I see it from the people that I interact with that have different relationships with their parents, way different levels. I mean, I know people that don't speak to their parents, some people that actively hate their parents and make sure that they remind their parent that they don't like them. A lot of, I'm your best friend type parent, which, is a whole nother conversation on the dynamic and how that can spill over to disrespect or being able to try to speak to your parent as if they're less of a parent, just a friend. But I like I said, I feel very privileged to have those examples in front of me so that I can pick up on all of the nonverbal and verbal examples that I can replicate and then produce so that the people around me can pick up on that and understand what level I operate on, and they learn from me where there's an exchange. I learn from them.
So you're not a father,
No,
but I think that fatherhood goes again beyond someone who has kids.
yeah,
Because
absolutely,
you
absolutely.
always, they're fatherhood figures, right? I'm
Yes.
using air quotes here, fatherhood figures. And I think that what we try to do, Nicholas and I, as LGBTQ parents, is make sure that we're aware that any child that's in our orbit is learning of and from us, and will recount what they have learned from and of us to their parents.
Yes.
And that exudes a level of trust or distrust.
Yes.
So we're always fighting against, ourselves sometimes to say we need to make sure we are always creating an environment that is safe, and we're always representing gay culture honorably, so that when this child becomes of age, they have the right perception of what a same-sex couple looks like and how they are supposed to behave, and can recognize when there is bad behavior occurring anywhere, whether it's with an LGBTQ couple or a male or female or whatever. So I do think that as an uncle, as a mentor to anyone, whether it be of similar age or a younger age, or maybe even someone who's older. There's still that fatherhood woven texture that comes in to play. And I know
Yeah.
you're going to say something on that.
Absolutely, because like I said, paid attention to what my father does, paying attention to fathers around me. I mean, people always think, I've been told Happy Father's Day many times because they've said, oh, you act like a father. Oh, I'm surprised you don't have kids. But I always joke and say, I don't have kids, but I have babies, the joke is, I don't have any kids, but I father, or I'm a father figure for even adults, because you can learn from adults, maternal, paternal, hints or tricks or perspective and things that you can apply to pass down to your own kids if you have kids from somebody that doesn't have kids. You don't necessarily have to just learn
Or
from
pass down to the nephews,
Yeah,
and the nieces,
absolutely.
and the cousins, and all the
As
people who are by definition. Well, no, I don't want to say by definition. I think younger people look up to older people just as a default.
Yeah.
But I do not think that you need to be
No.
older in order to be able to provide wisdom.
Yeah, you can
to
learn from
someone.
kids too. I mean, you
Absolutely.
pay attention, and that's another thing I see that kind of makes me cringe. I hate, or hate is a strong word, obviously. I often witness kids when they parent their kid or they speak to them in public settings or what have you, and they speak to them as if they're stupid. They're speaking to them as if they're gonna be a kid forever, like they have some type of developmental issue. I mean, they might have something, but you can tell sometimes where it's like you're babying them too much. Like you should treat, and this is coming from somebody that doesn't have a kid, by the way. You speak to them as if they're an adult in training, because you're stacking on the lessons, because you can't just put all this stuff on them at one time. You're developing them. They're picking up on everything. And like some of the parents that'll speak around their kids, assuming that the kid's not listening, or it's like, kids are sponges. I mean, that's said a lot. They pick up on all those little cues. I definitely think there needs to be more conversation on the skills and the tactics and some of the tools that parents need to use in this day and age, because the internet, social media is such a curveball that has never been done before in this time and space. You're literally walking around with a supercomputer in your pocket that you have access, and depending on what culture you're from, what age group, you're going to gravitate to some things that maybe you're not supposed to get into, or doom scrolling, or like me and you, we were born in the 1900s, right? So with that being said, we were around and outside, and go outside till the street lights come on, and getting stimulated and learning on our own, smelling the air. People don't realize all the little things that can add up and bring you mental health away from your cell phone. So we know how to separate the internet world and the real world, and be able to have that discipline to cut one off, or cut the internet world off, and get back to present, and get back to center, and reconnect with yourself, recalibrate, and kind of separate yourself from the frequency of the devices. Because I think those kind of things, and there's so many different conversations I could have about that. But
I think you raise a good point again, because we are raising the general this is not true for Nick and I, but we are raising kids that will develop and produce an adult that we've never seen before, because YouTube and the financial ties and how people get rich quick is all tied to a screen that we have in our hands.
It looks successful, yeah.
That is what people are chasing now. And their kids are seeing that, and they're like, this is what I saw. So now there are more careers in this world about influencing, right? And that's a powerful
Very
word,
powerful.
right?
Very
Influencing the world and social media and getting rich off of it. 14-year-olds buying mansions and stuff like that. Yeah, that's attractive.
powerful. Yeah.
But what kind of an adult are we going to be left with 20
What's the
years from
foundation
now?
that they have in their brain going on? And they're exposed to a number of generations and kids out there that they see, quote unquote, if you're making a lot of money, that means you're successful, which does not necessarily mean it's correct.
It does not tie to success.
And sometimes it's the blind leading the blind, and everybody's falling into the water.
And that's what scares me a little bit. We're, kind of like the same way we're raising Jacob now, and he has a supercomputer in his hand. This is new territory for us as a parent, but it's also new territory for a lot of parents because we grew up being introduced to a cell phone gradually.
Yeah,
right?
partially, gradually. Yeah.
It was a phone, then it had 3 apps, then it had 5 apps, then they could get online, then it had 20 apps, and then it had an app store, and then now it has Siri, and now it has ChatGPT. So now we're in a generation where a kid's first introduction to a cell phone is all of that at once.
Yeah.
So
it's
now
overwhelming.
what does that mean to 15 years from now when they're in their early 20s? What does that mean for our society if we don't take the time to say we're going to build the foundation of, like you said, go outside, run around the tree, play basketball, you can be on your cell phone for an hour, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Timmy over here, he's podcasting up. Good for Timmy. But I need to raise a kid that when YouTube crashes for some reason, not saying it will, but if for some reason YouTube goes belly up, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
somebody that's social skills.
Mentally, the structure of their mental health is not based on the internet and what it produces and how it makes them react. Like, they have enough foundation to able to secure their own bandwidth, their own mindscape, if you will, and not allow the comment section to affect their mental health, and they're depressed for the rest of the day because somebody said they're ugly.
Well, if that's your only engagement, right, the screen.
Yeah, that's
and
the
now
thing.
you get out in the world and you're trying to talk to people.
Yeah, it's so hard for them, and I get it. Like I said, I date often, so, and I go a little bit younger sometimes. Not weird young, by the way. But I see the generational change and how quickly they pick up their phone, and a lot of the I try to deduce and deconstruct some of the origins on why people do certain things, and a lot of imagination has been lost. The internet and the search bar fills in the blank. Like, I've noticed, like, if I say something and it's profound, something they never heard, or I've never heard about that, they won't stop and think about it. They'll pick up the phone and have the phone think for them. They'll start Googling and seeing what other people thought about it. But it's like, wait a minute, go through your thoughts first. Use the internet as a resource, and then.
But they call that research, right?
Yeah, it's research to
research.
Supplement your own thoughts.
I think it's their opportunity to say what other people are thinking, but I think they are trying to find how they should feel about what you said, as opposed to going, oh, that makes sense because the roots of this goes back to ancient Egypt, and some pharaoh said it because of this situation. I think
I believe that
is
too.
Lost a little bit. We go back to the days when we had Britannica.
Oh, geez.
Right? You need to do some research. Let's get your
it's
volume
like 700
76,
books,
right? And find what you're looking for, which requires a lot of thought and time and determination in order to be successful.
Discipline, yeah.
Today, it's like, I didn't find what I was looking for, so all right, we'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. A lot easier to get into research and all that, but that whole fill in the blank thing, it's like I said, the imagination is a lot different. I won't say it's totally lost, but yeah, going back to what you're saying, we had to do a lot more things to get to a conclusion. We had to, in addition to the books, add our own thoughts and kind of develop our own conclusions or paths towards that. And use the books and the encyclopedia to supplement that. And, Google search came around a little bit after that. But, the phones by design and the technology behind it, even the CEOs I've seen in documentaries of these social media groups, obviously the big ones, I don't even have to mention them, the big social media groups, and the CEOs and the board members and all that, they don't even subject their own kids.
They don't. I saw that.
They aggressively
limit
or
limit.
do not even allow them to touch it because they know the psychology that comes behind getting people hooked on their phone. Pretty much the design was to make people have a relationship with their phone.
For
you
advertising,
always pick
right?
it up.
Advertising.
You
Stick
lose
to your phone.
the connection to yourself, your phone.
I mean, the algorithm. I just checked
yourself.
into it, right? Algorithm for Instagram is engagement.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you get the
Engagement.
clicks. That's how you get the ad. And everything is monetized for good and for bad, too. Finding that good balance, I think it needs to be tweaked. But going back to fatherhood, a lot of the internet is raising these kids.
There's a good reason to tweak it. If it's not money driven, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's there has to be some laws. I believe Texas has started to push some type of law where they're not going to allow anybody under 18 to have a social media account, which is laughable because I know back when AOL.com or AIM, they had restrictions on some chat rooms, and you go to the homepage. Are you over 18? Yes or no? What are you going to click? You have no loyalty to the device. You're going to say yes just to get in, and you're going to consume certain things that you're not prepared for. It's going to throw your mind into a tizzy if it's strong enough.
I think it goes beyond that. You can't
Absolutely.
You can't control something by removing it.
No.
When it exists. I think a lot of these lawmakers who are parents themselves are approaching these laws as non-parents. You can't tell a kid you can't have social media until you're 18 when you are seeing 15-year-olds make $500,000 a year. They're going to find a way around it.
Yeah. You ever heard of the Streisand effect? Streisand effect is when you tell somebody, no, don't do this, and then they look more and more.
Yeah, okay.
So
that's exactly what it is.
That's something that'll happen. I think there's ways of at least educating through school, public schools, private school, charter school. There needs to be more education out there on what the parents can do to kind of communicate with their kids and tell them why they're trying to restrict some things if they do want to restrict it.
So why not? Okay, my last question here, because I know we're running out of time. Why not? Okay, so let me rephrase. Do you think it's a good thing if we add social awareness, connectivity, networking as a class, whether it be for a semester or some sort of a segment at the high school level? Because I think
absolutely.
I think because the world is evolving, right?
Mm-hmm.
School in
So
itself
fast.
is designed to teach you things to be at least baseline in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have things like how to manage social media, how you should engage with people, how you should behave, you don't have any of that today.
No.
It should be incorporated so that people learn to be better citizens through social media. There's so much bullying that happens online.
Yeah.
Why are we not teaching that in school? Is that the parent's job? Absolutely. But there is a administrative element to bullying, to social media. You can even go into economics. How do you manage your money from social media? I mean, all of that needs to be part of it, because people make money and then they start making stupid decisions because they don't have any background to fall on when they're make $200,000. You're going to end up in some stuff if you don't have the right foundation.
Yeah, and especially if you're surrounded by a whole bunch of yes men that just want your money. They want to cut a percentage so they can be like, yeah, do it, whatever. I'm not going to get messed up. You're going to take the fall. It's on your name. But I remember we talked about that whole, influencers and people being susceptible to what goes online and parenting. But I gave you an example of how, off the record, ChatGPT I always mess that up on purpose, by the way, because I don't want to take it serious. Chat BPT, I always change the words. But how they are, I believe, in litigation with like 3 cases. One of them was due to it facilitating somebody unaliving themselves because they had a relationship with that. And, you know, I'm saying that because where was the parent? And it's hard for parents. I will agree. It's very hard for parents nowadays because they literally have to grow 8 arms to manage their life, their kids' life. And some of these parents are addicted to social media because
exactly. That's the adults I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
We produced these adults, and now
they're in it too,
doing the same thing with their kids and going, oh, I was okay with it when I went through at that age, but it's a different technology today. And I do think that there is an ownership that's necessary. If you give your kid a computer that has ChatGPT on it, knowing it's an AI, we don't really know what that does yet.
Yeah.
You should be monitoring that. And as an outro here, we're starting to see a lot of legal consequences attributed to parents of kids who do school shootings.
Yes.
Because they're
That's part of it too.
Providing the tools or the environment for these kids to have access to these things. I just heard on the news the other day that another parent was charged because they, not even like a few days ago, they bought their child a handgun or something like that for their birthday. Why would you do something like that if you don't know your child well enough to know what they're going to do with something like that?
I think they believe that they know their child well enough, but there's always that, you know, we speak to when we're in the space of our parents, we act a little bit more according to what the parent would expect, or you know, a little bit nicer, or, you know, mom and son relationship. You know, it's different from when you're outside with your friends. There's a different energy that's there.
I agree.
So
but I think there's some breadcrumbs that can always be picked up.
Yeah, it's
but at the same
due
time,
diligence on the parents' part.
Why does your 17-year-old have a Glock?
Because they trust. And, you know, part of the culture, like Texas culture, I know I've spoke to friends and I've brought this up on my own. You know, you have 22 caliber hunting rifles where if the dad's out hunting and he wants to bring little Billy out, and that's what they train him on. Like, it's for hunting only. They never have the foresight to think, oh, okay, maybe what happens
Fair
if
enough.
he unlocks this.
None of these guns are locked up.
No.
That are part of the, not that I'm aware
because
of. I could be wrong.
He's never done anything before.
I could be wrong, but these school shootings, the guns aren't locked up. The ammo isn't stored properly. You know, there isn't a course that we can tell of that they took. Where's that course? You know, nothing. So, well, I taught him, you know, we went out hunting and I taught him gun safety. Great. You taught him gun safety based on what you know, which may not be the entire story, because someone taught you based on what they know.
Yeah.
But have we had the conversation that says, let's sit down and talk about what it means to have this gun?
I don't think they've had it deep enough. And like you said, the connection to their own kid, their own child, their electrical devices. Like, I've met parents before that didn't even know the cell phone that they gave their child had parental controls.
Isn't that crazy?
They could utilize it. Yeah, there needs to be a training. Like I said, there's no. It's a lot of work for the parents to invest. I don't want to say investigate their child, but know what their child is doing, what they're getting involved in, what they're consuming, because it's on a cell phone and it's so quick, and kids can delete stuff. I remember one of my truck driving friends, he banned his son from using Instagram because he got into some weird stuff. He said he found out his son would download Instagram every morning when he went to school after he left the house, and before he would come home, he would delete it. Because it's that quick. You know, day and age, me and you, it would take 2 hours to download an app.
Back in the day.
Napster days, 8 hours overnight.
You would find a way. You'd find a way. I mean, that's what Snapchat really does right now. Everything disappears. Yeah. But, you know, it's not perfect.
No, it's not perfect.
Hard.
It takes
work.
Hard.
But if you have kids and you are a good parent, and I think a lot of parents out there are are good parents and want to be
Absolutely.
good parents,
I see a lot of good parents.
then it takes the time that it takes.
I mean, their kid, and I see it all the time. They have a secret life, the child, that they're actively keeping their parent away because they don't want to get cut off from certain communication that they have with their community of friends at school.
Right.
Discords, random apps. I mean, there's so many dark web apps that they use that could create cell phone numbers, text me now, all these types of stuff. That is just it's overwhelming for the parent. So like I said, I feel for the parent, but it's on you.
It doesn't absolve them.
It's on you to separate from, like, you have to make your kid a priority in the communication that they get to know your kid on a deeper level, understanding what they're consuming. And I think it's okay to have a kind of mirroring tool or app on their phone. I mean, until they're 18, I don't think they should have much privacy, if you ask me. Their privacy is your privacy.
Yeah.
And some adults, because I remember there was a span in generation, I don't know if it was the early 2000s, where they were pushing for parents to be the friends of the kids, be the best friend. So anytime,
get to know your kid, be there.
Yeah, be friend level. Don't snoop and trust them. Trust a 12, 14, 15-year-old.
Why are you in their privacy? You see it in movies all the time, right?
Yeah.
Why are you in their privacy?
Yeah. So, and then the strength of the kids, they learn how to combat certain ideas that push the parents into a corner, and then they feel bad. There's a lot of manipulation tools online that are learned by kids and adults that I see being implemented. And it's like, man, these kids really, like the whole, I need a cell phone for safety. I get it. That is true to an extent. But I believe as a kid, you should be around an adult all the time anyway. I mean, if you're by yourself, yes. Field trip, maybe. You still need an adult around. If something happens, you don't have to revert to the adult anyway. School shooting, yes. Cell phone is great, but you still should be around an adult.
I think there are a lot of parents.
There's a lot of nuances stuff.
Yeah, there's some parents that just have no alternative but to have their kid at home by themselves with a cell phone. I get it.
Yeah.
But there are parental steps in the phone that you can take.
Get that jitterbug cell phone.
Exactly. When we first started with Jacob had a home phone line.
Yeah.
Like, go in the closet and grab the receiver and give us a call. He had our numbers memorized.
That's a lot.
So it's like, when we first started, and this was recent, right? He now stays home at like a couple of hours here and there by himself. We're trying to get that to be a thing. He gets used to being at home by himself and supporting himself and things.
Yeah, he's big 15 now.
Jeez.
Jesus, right?
So he has a phone now, but that phone is on hard lockdown.
Yeah, dumbed down.
Yeah. Everything needs a permission. Ding, 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 ding. Can he do this? Oh, no. So it's like, but it takes time to learn how to do that on your kid's phone.
It takes vigilant attentiveness, tenacity, love being a parent from what I've seen from the outside, obviously. Let me say that again. I'm not a father in the physical sense, but I know how to extend advice and introduce my perspective in learning from my father and seeing how he operated and the fruits of his labor and knowing that what he did in certain situations works. And if I apply it, it can work. Even in this day and age, obviously you have to reapply certain things, add a little here, add a little sugar there, add a little spice there. But the delivery and the outcome can be the same, gain confidence, gain mental fortitude, a number of things going on. But my father definitely instilled the blueprint, and it's from his father and the father before that, and the power that extends to the people around you. And it elevates the whole community when you introduce your strength and your perspective and the skills. And that's where the communication with your kids, connection to the school, connection to aunts and uncles, the parents that your kids play with, like all of that. Everybody gets on the same page, then everybody elevates. Get on the same page, then turn the page together. get on the same page, turn the page together. And I believe that is one of the main strengths that my parents have implemented and displayed to me so that I can recreate and reproduce.
Well said. Well said. All right, we've reached the end of our podcast. So I want to say thank you to Abbas for joining us, providing us with a lot of wisdom. This
One
has
of a
been
kind.
fantastic. A lot of our experiences are fairly similar, but we're still very unique individuals.
Juxtapose, right?
At the end. Okay. Juxtapose. I like that. All right. Well, this is the end of our podcast, so I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you, and we will talk again soon.
Shout out Houston.
You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see that you'll never ever find somebody